As someone who wrote news for Chet Huntley, I wonder, this was a long time ago, I wonder whether you gentlemen, not just gentlemen, see much difference between these two hypothetical news stories. The first is the way it would be done today, and the second is the way I believe we did it in the 1960s. So here's the first. Number one, President Bush today stepped up the war on terror by, etc., etc., etc. Number two, President Bush today stepped up what he calls the war on terror, etc., etc., etc. Do you see a difference between this, and how in your own respective beats is that applicable?
Interesting question.
Well, I think that comes up in my paper all the time because, in fact, I'm pretty sure that we can have a style rule about this in which you don't call it the war on terror, you call it the Iraq War, or you call it what Bush calls the war on terror, because we're not sure. I don't think there's unanimity about whether in fact the war on terror is being fought in Baghdad exclusively. So yeah, no, I think that is an important distinction. On television, I think it's harder because television is a visual medium and there's less words. So you want to use the shortest word possible, and it's very easy to, well, you'll tell me, to drift into adopting the language of politicians as opposed to putting some distance. It's what Orwell called, right? The shift of society. It's the what is it? The greater shift of society as opposed to persecution. It becomes easier. It becomes a shorthand. I like to think that.
So it's laziness.
It's not laziness. It's expediency, and it's sometimes a lack of awareness. I mean, we could have a whole other panel about what happened in 2003 with television and the coverage.
Yeah, but I don't think the fact that you have less time justifies shortcuts that are inappropriate to the truth or inappropriate to the moment. I mean, I think that all over Africa, Africans were appalled at the coverage of the war, of the 9/11, because of the way in which, well, television and print became we. And even now, you will hear an anchor standing somewhere traveling with the president and talking about we, referring to the United States. And that automatically puts the journalists in the same room, in the same mode as the president, as the government, as the spokesperson for the government. You know, it doesn't mean that you're not loyal or whatever, but if you're a journalist, you need to put some distance between yourself and the politicians. And so all over the developing world, there was a huge criticism of American journalists. And even now, American journalism has begun to be introspective about their coverage of the post 9/11 world, admitting a lot of their errors.
Actually, I think you answered the second of my specific questions, because in a way, what you discussed referred to it. I just want to tell you that the specific point that was mentioned about words was, why does the media adopt the term surge, for example, to characterize a military strategy rather than using a more neutral term? But I think the responses are rather similar. So let me...
Can I just say one thing on that? Because everybody also now is seized with Darfur. Right. And I just did a magazine piece in which I was they asked me, well, what did you ask about the genocide? Mm-hmm. And I said, but it's only the United States that's calling it a genocide. It's, you know, the UN is calling it one of the worst humanitarian disasters, but you really do have to be careful about language. And I just find this sloppiness creeping into reporting, and especially television reporting. And I don't think it's because of the time limit. I think it's just because of lack of preparedness and being uninformed.
Well, I'm so glad you say that. It does certainly bring us back to the main theme of this conference, politics and the English language. So let me give you the two questions which earned the largest set of responses. They both pretty much 5 identical questions for each one. And one was Commissioner Kopp's, addressed to Commissioner Kopp's, and one also to Charlene Hunter-Gold, but they really go to the whole panel. I start with the latter. Several times in this conversation there was a reference to this idea that somehow the solutions to some of what we've been talking about would be some sort of new approach to journalism, different approach to journalism. If the panelists each, or whoever is moved to do so, could give us in one sentence what they mean by such a new journalism, this would be the moment to do it. Could be two, but give us something we can work with.
Did you understand?
What would be the new idea of a journalism that would cut through the problems we've been talking about?
Josh, you're on.
Everybody's on this. Ernie as well.
Josh, why don't you start with that?
I guess I would deny the premise. You know, most of the problems that I see in journalism today are ones that could be solved by pretty basic, you know, ethical and professional standards of how to convey reality as closely as we can.
So
And I think that applies to print and online. You know, I mean, I guess the one thing I might propose is different. I think that the the idea of the concept of reportorial objectivity that is dominant, at least as a concept, in the mainstream media, I think has degenerated to a stage where it's more often a tool of distortion and confusion than of a faithful presentation of factual information.
Okay, let's just go down the line here, and then I'm going to also...
Give it to us straight. What is this? Okay, we have objectivity. Anybody else could add to that? Thank you, Ernie. Go ahead.
Alessandra, quick.
So-
So you want a sentence, basically, that
Well,
would...
as clear as possible so that these people can go home tonight and say, aha, I went to this conference. This is how it has to be different.
Well, I can volunteer
Okay.
a comment. My venue is obviously broadcast journalism, but I would like to see broadcast journalism re-empowered by good public interest regulation. No good local news, no coverage of community events, no political coverage, no license.
Okay? That was a sentence with several commas, but it was certainly a good sentence. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I would argue that new journalism would be well advised to live up to traditional old journalism, at least ethically and in terms of honesty. I'm not saying that all journalism is objective, but it should try to be. And my concern is actually the kind of narcissism of the new journalism in which everybody's writing in the first person and turning basically newspaper articles into blogs as opposed to having, whereas the best blogs might as well be newspaper articles. So I'm happy with traditional journalism.
One more sentence. Absolutely. I agree with a lot of that. I guess what I would say is, to follow up with what I said before, I think that the tenet of objectivity as it exists in journalism today is very often is used as an excuse not to make factual determinations in our reporting, to basically present the readers with two opposing viewpoints, two opposing arguments, and so, you know, two sides of the argument, even in cases where, to the extent that we can still hold on to some kind of, you know, Enlightenment theory of rational argument, that one is true and one is false. And that's what I think the problem is.